Welcome back to GamerWatch, guys. Today is episode 10. How you guys doing? How are you, Rom?
I'm good. How are you doing, Ash?
I'm okay, doing pretty good. So today we got a special episode. Today
Yeah.
we're gonna be talking about some Blizzard pay issues. Before we get into that, what you been up to?
Yeah, been doing a lot of reading lately. Watching a lot of TV actually. Just kind of like a little bit bored around the house. Not much to do in BFA. I've been doing arenas, I guess, with a friend of ours, a mutual friend
Mm-hmm.
of ours.
And how that going?
Um,
What's your win rate?
they're going all right. Don't worry about the win rate. But basically a coin flip essentially.
What was just give
If
us a
that
number, like
actually.
30%, 40%, 20%, 10%?
I think the last session we went 12 and 12. But it's not like we
Hmm.
were, super high or anything.
Interesting.
We are 1600 MMR. I think roughly around 1500 total. We're getting gear. We need some corruption. We're catching up on the gears, treadmill, and go figure. By the time we may or may not get caught up, corruption's gonna be gone anyways, right? Release
Yeah,
date right around the
100%.
corner, pre-patch
I'm
right
looking
around the
forward to
corner.
it.
Yeah, you are you? What have you been doing?
Nothing much, just playing Overwatch. Pushing a little bit rest fire. Some radical
Enjoying the
changes happening, but
yeah,
that's for
enjoying.
another
I heard you
time.
were enjoying those nerfs, right?
Nope, not for a
Not.
second.
Yeah, yeah.
I
You
mean,
are
it's
gonna
warranted,
change
but
up
like,
your mains because of that?
maybe. We'll see. We'll see how everything plays out. Because a lot of
Yeah.
things got nerfed, so I had to feel out everything. Yeah.
hmm So
Well,
yeah. So today, like I think today the main driver of what the main I guess subject of our episode. I don't know. Have you heard much about the Blizzard pay spreadsheet that came out and all the controversy with that?
right. So there was an article that came out along with the spreadsheet,
Mm-hmm.
and so while I think a couple months ago there was a initial pay sheet with everyone's pay at Blizzard Entertainment Company
Mm-hmm.
about what they got paid in a position came out, and then a article came out about how these wages and their increase in wages was not comparable at all to anything within the industry. And usually the gaming industry as a whole has been on the lower side compared to other companies outside of the gaming industry, but Blizzard especially has been, based on the spreadsheet, has shown to be a bit lower, especially as they're located in California.
Yeah, and I mean, just the comments that are riddled throughout the spreadsheet are, they're pretty. I mean, I don't want to use the word sad. I mean, they are making still pretty good pay, a lot of them. But it is like it is saddening, I should say, that a lot of people who have been working there for so long don't necessarily feel well compensated, right?
Oh, yeah, that's apparently the sentiment around the spreadsheet. I guess the biggest issue is the lack of raises within the whole departments and everything.
Mm-hmm.
As some people came in with the expectation that they'd be getting bonuses, pay raises, and all this stuff to match the increasing inflation and demand of living in California. But from based on the spreadsheet, and we'll get into some comments that was left on that later on, but
Mm-hmm.
it looks like people are really disgruntled by how many raises, and how much they're actually getting per raise.
Yeah, like, and it's not that again, employees feeling disgruntled. In other news, the sky is blue. Like this is
Right,
pretty
right.
common sentiment, right?
Sure.
But when you see companies such as Blizzard posting I mean, again, up until all the COVID stuff that happened. But before that, I know they were enjoying pretty like a large level of success. I think like in terms of their quarterly profits, like they were pushing like because of microtransactions and things of that nature, record profits. And so it's not like exactly Blizzard slash Activision were struggling to begin with. And so when you have all these disgruntled employees, the money's not necessarily making its way down the chain, is it?
Right. I mean, like we could talk about like trickle debt, like trickle down economics type of deal. But
Yeah.
we see. I think a while back we saw the new CEO. I think Bobby Kotick of
hmm
Blizzard Activision company, right? Getting this huge bonus for getting signed on and all that stuff, right?
Huge American bonus.
Right. but later on, and then so we're like, that's really questionable. But we thought everything was at least decent in the gaming company, right? But
Yeah.
when we see this just adds fire to the or fuel to the flame type of deal.
Yeah.
As so while some of the higher end developers are, I would say, um, compensated pretty well. I mean, would you agree with that? They're pretty
Yeah, like yeah, they make like I mean they're pushing six figures if not
right,
already there. Yeah, they're doing pretty well for themselves relative to like especially like I mean considering now that there's mass unemployment across the country and things of that nature. They're making pretty enviable salaries. Yeah.
right. But yeah, so then the big issue is with everyone below him, general. How do you say? Just general managers type of deal. You know, everyone like testers,
Mhm.
media managers, all this other stuff, right? The forum managers. What's the correct term for that?
The form the community I mean
Yeah,
don't they
community
community
managers type
something.
of yeah.
Yeah, that's what
So
it
all
is.
those
Yeah.
lower end people underneath like the developing side of
Yeah, the
even
quality
right,
assurance
right,
testers, all those things. Yeah.
and the junior developers even
Yeah.
tend,
Yeah.
tend to be all on the lower side,
Mhm.
especially and junior developers do ever I think shown from the spreadsheet have shown to have at least the potential to get raises and upgrades,
Mhm.
but those everything outside of the that core developing section has shown to be very contractual in how they are hired, and also their potential for increasing raises and positions appear to be very low.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like so many of these lower positions, they barely got pay raises that would scale with say inflation or cost of living, and I mean if they get raises at all. I think I saw a comment about they only just recently got a pay raise based on one of them talked about how they only just recently got pay raise because of their a competition and how like equal pay in other positions for other similar types of companies, and they got a 10% increase only recently in like October or something because of that. Again, they were pretty fortunate to get that raise right before all the COVID stuff happened, but still, like for that to be like for Blizzard to be underpaying relative to their competition, like that's just an interesting comment to see, don't you think?
Yeah, it is definitely an interesting comment. I think part of the idea with their approach to this is that they as a company is really well respected, and working there, whether it's for cheap, has will bring you I think a lot of success, a very good name on your resume.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the problems that people might face is that there's so much competition for these positions at Blizzard that some people view it as like, well, Blizzard has the people they can replace it with, so they
Yeah.
can afford to be paying this low. So whether that's morally right or wrong, that's up to you guys as individuals. But that's kind of the reason why they're able to get away with this for so long is that the gaming industry as a whole has is something prestigious, right? As a like whether you're a developer or just a gamer, the ability to work within the gaming industry has something seems like magical, right? But we as you get into it, it just doesn't like the insides of it. It's just not as magical as it seems, right? The
Yeah.
playing, among other things.
Yeah, like I mean a lot of I guess industries from the outside, like especially in my younger days, I would say like, oh, I wanted to work so for instance, I used to write a an article for an online wrestling magazine, and so I'm big into the wrestling industry. Just a little personal info to throw out there. And so I used to write for an online wrestling magazine, and if you told me like 10 years previous to that, that's kind of what I would be doing, I would have been like, oh, that's amazing, like that, like that's freaking incredible that I get to do something like that's like one of my passions. Like I've been pretty into pro wrestling for some time throughout my life, and but as soon as I got into the industry, it just became like I didn't get I barely got any compensation. Like it was very marginal. Like I was dropped at the as soon as the site crashed. Like no warning or whatsoever. I wasn't in the loop at all. So like I can imagine like a lot of these people who like they finally get to work for Blizzard. Just again to sort of like give like an analogy to my own previous experience. It would kind of be like the same. Like oh, this is like the cream of the crop in terms of the gaming industry, and the studios available to work for. Blizzard Activision would be one of the big ones, and for them to sort of seem to be so downtrodden with all their different comments. Yeah, they didn't seem like not all the comments were negative, to be fair, but I'd say about maybe 40 to 50% of comments, sort of going through them before we were during the show, seemed to be somewhat negative in nature. And yeah, their compensation just doesn't match what you would think they'd be making, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the comments were very, I guess, very negative in how they approached Blizzard and their, I guess, approach to this compensation.
Yeah,
And we can go through some of the comments right now, actually.
sure.
So one comment was, if Riot opened up a gaming studio in Irvine, I would be all over it.
Yeah,
And that's tend to be the sentiment of some of the people for competitive or the competition out there, is that if any one of the major companies opened up near Blizzard, they would switch immediately. I believe
hmm
there was also one line in the spreadsheet how they didn't get a better offer until they switched over to Riot from Blizzard.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I missed that one.
Yeah, I believe that was one of them. So
Yeah.
as a gaming as a whole, gaming industry has known to be, I guess, lower than other outside companies, but like even
Yeah.
Blizzard has shown to be even lower than that. And there was another comment. So another comment was, not enough, barely keeping up with inflation. Expected more, got much less.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
shows, as you guys should remember, California is really expensive to live in, right?
Yeah, yeah. I had just had a friend, one of my really good friends, move to actually Irvine specifically, and yeah, it's just the amount of money you need to make to be able to afford to live out there. Sorry, I dropped something. Is actually just pretty absurd to live out there. California is not cheap in itself, but that is even beyond that one of the more expensive areas, other than maybe like say San Francisco or LA. It might be as comparable to those areas. They're very gentrified and high cost of living. Yeah. So I mean, another one here, the comment that they mentioned relative to their pay. They were talking about that their pay, quote, they quote, feels high until you realize how far it doesn't go and what the going rate is at other places. Again, we have a comparative comment relative to other positions within the gaming industry, and they clearly feel like they have been shorted because they could go make more money elsewhere. But maybe they enjoy they've made friends at Blizzard. They enjoy their time, and they may feel stuck in the position because again, these positions are pretty competitive to get to begin with. Last comment here we're going to go through. This is a bit of a lengthy one, so I apologize. I'll get through it as quick as I can. I was headhunted by Blizzard, and this was the lowest by 10 to 20% of my 4 offers, including offers from startups and other large game development companies with the highest cost of living. I was told at the time that I was already at the top of my band, but have not received, I assume they mean pay band, by the way, but have not received any information or what that band actually is, and was later told that I would likely not receive a salary raise until I got a promotion because of this, but that I was unlikely to get a promotion anytime soon because there's already a, quote, long wait list of people waiting for promotions in the department. Again, like this person got an offer from Blizzard that was less than freaking startups. Like that, I mean, how sad is that?
Yeah, it's really sad, honestly.
Yeah.
Because again, some of the companies don't necessarily, other gaming companies don't necessarily pay as well as outside companies again. So
Yeah.
when you take this comment in mind with that, that just shows really how bottom Blizzard can be sometimes.
Yeah.
But maybe this will cause some changes to happen because I know Activision Blizzard did respond in that article I talked about at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
that was made around the spreadsheet that was released.
Mm-hmm. This is a Forbes article, by the way. Just
Yeah, Forbes article.
Mm-hmm.
And so one comment they just straight up made was like, how many people. So there was also a survey done
Mm-hmm.
of how many people were unsatisfied with the pay rate,
Mm-hmm.
along with this spreadsheet. And so that survey showed that it was over 50% of Blizzard Entertainment employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then they reached out and said the survey numbers were inaccurate. It was not more than half. It was significantly less than half. Was what they
Yeah.
came out with. So
Yeah. And you know what? To be fair to Blizzard, they did. I do want to not just totally rag on them completely. They responded. One of their spokeswomen, Jessica Taylor, Activision Blizzard spokeswoman Jessica Taylor, it's a quote in the article. She noted that this year's salary increases were 20% more than prior years. Fair enough, right? But when you just throw out a random statistic like that, it's a little bit convenient to throw that out, because if you 20% of minimal pay raises and cost of living increases and lack of scaling with inflation doesn't really mean shit, to be honest, for lack of a better phrase. And so yeah, this just like, they might have gotten better and it increased salaries across the board a little bit more, but 20% more than prior years still doesn't mean anything. So considering Blizzard's stature within the company and the fact that they're throwing out lowball offers relative to startup companies, I mean that's just a joke.
Yeah, that is unfortunately, but
Yeah.
so I guess the question has to be asked: that is Blizzard always in the like is it fully in the wrong because of the competition at the employee level that caused them to have the ability to have such low wages, or is it more just Blizzard's morally wrong as a company, as this is corporate greed that's causing all this?
Yeah, I mean, you probably can predict, knowing me, where I stand on this issue. I tend to
Sure.
have a problem with big corporations that, don't they tend to keep the money flowing pretty easily, to be honest, with bonuses and things of that nature at the top of the food chain, and very little, essentially breadcrumbs, make their way down, and CEO pay scales and CFOs and things such positions like that. They make a lot of money, but the pay down at the bottom doesn't necessarily scale as well as the pay at the top. So I'm going to lean towards corporate greed. Yeah. I mean, if we had to sort of, put a percentage on it between corporate greed, a flaw in trickle down economics, or an issue of competition that overall just saturates the field and makes it harder, I mean, I'd probably go 45% on corporate greed, 45% on the flaw of trickle down economics as a whole, and then just 10% on competition saturating the field. But obviously, that's my personal view on it as a whole with regards to Blizzard specifically. I don't know. What about you?
I think it's basically a little bit of not so much as trickle down economics, but more a focus on the competition and the
Yeah,
corporate greed. I think competition is very underrated.
yeah,
And at the end of the day, yes, it is corporate greed that I mean, they have the choice to either make or don't make these decisions, and they do.
mm-hmm.
But I think having like a competition in a very saturated field,
Yeah,
I think opens up a lot of avenues for this type of stuff to even occur, because you have people like who really like want to work in this industry, because the idea of working in the game industry like is, you know, I think is very fabulous, right? You get to
mm-hmm.
work at Blizzard Entertainment, makers of World of Warcraft, Overwatch, right?
Yeah,
Or Riot for League of Legends. That's just something special about that, right?
sure.
And unfortunately, there's so many people who, majoring in like game design or whatever, right? Trying to get into the fields, just trying to get
Mm-hmm.
their foot in, that they're willing to deal with this, right?
Yeah,
And usually these are pretty competent people, because even with such low balling salaries, I think there was a statement once on I don't remember if it was like some employee posted on Reddit or something, but they said how they had to get in. It was like trying to get in for like Google, like Blizzard's like the Google um of the gaming industry, right? Google, like
interesting.
Riot and all this stuff, right? Like
Okay,
you had
yeah,
to go through like hoops and just to get in there, right?
yeah,
Especially on like the higher position. So I mean, it looks like they have so much competition that it's so very prestigious, and unfortunately, that leads to people who are just willing to. They just want Blizzard on their name, so they're willing to do whatever it takes, and that includes taking lower pay.
yeah,
And there's always been talk about how much is it Blizzard's fault, how much is Activision's fault when they merge and everything. But
mm-hmm.
you know, at the end of the day, they are a company, and I think it should also be looked at like as a company, how much is it within their responsibility to make sure they turn a profit versus making sure they take care of the employees. I also would lean to that they should at least make sure the employees have the bare minimum, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think it's completely wrong in Blizzard's eye, or in my eyes, for Blizzard to try to take the avenue that would lead to slightly more profit. Now, I'm not saying it's they're off the hook, right? But I mean, at the same time, you know, they have the ability to hire good people for cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as a company whose goal is to make a profit, right?
Yeah,
Is it entirely their fault. I would say a little bit of, I think so, 50% competition, 50% corporate greed was where I would stand mostly.
Okay, fair enough. And I mean, ultimately, I think like when you go across these throughout these comments and you see their obvious sort of jaded level of jadedness sort of that they all have, well, a lot of them have, like there's a little bit of like bite to these comments where uh like their response they mention like things such as like their workload is increasing, their responsibilities are growing year after year. Some people have been capped for like a long period of time in terms of their salary, 5 years at some points. That's just, I don't know, like I think Blizzard can do better. Granted, sure, it's in their best interest to make as much as they can. But when you have this billion-dollar company, arguing margins of a couple hundred or a couple thousand here or there, that's just, I don't know. Like when startups are offering more, I think that's a bit problematic. And granted, Blizzard is obviously a much more secure position, so they have the ability to offer lower
Right.
pay relative to a startup, which maybe that's a riskier position. Well, not maybe, definitely a riskier position.
Yes.
But it's just,
Right,
I don't
because
know.
having Blizzard name is, I think it's understated how much having the Blizzard name on your resume actually helps.
And that's fair. I just tend to have an issue with when I see like you mentioned, who is it who gave himself a huge bonus or got a huge bonus? What was it?
Bobby Kotick, I think was the name. He's the
Yeah,
CEO or CFO, something like that.
yeah, we were talking about it in the pre-show, or I don't recall if you mentioned it earlier in the show. But yeah, that's yeah, when they get these huge raises, and then you have all these different employees struggling, in a pretty expensive area to live, like. I don't know. There's just something a little bit out of whack about that to me, but perhaps that's like a more of a political discussion than anything else. So
Yeah, it definitely is. So I guess then if so, let me change the conversation a little bit. Is
yeah.
the fact that these cuts are happening, or I mean, the lack of raises per se is happening, right? Along with
Mm-hmm.
the employee cuts that happen, does this cause, I guess, disgruntled work to be occur, where employees are cutting corners maybe because of lack of caring? So maybe it is in Blizzard's best interest of this is what's happening to raise the um the salaries.
Yeah, they're like I don't I can't I don't want to necessarily make the claim directly. Like look at how BFA turned out, and it's pretty universally ragged upon. But at the same time, when you have a company that's made it big time, you definitely expect a better product than what BFA was for the money you pay. 15 a month, that's not insignificant across hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And so we don't necessarily exactly have specific subscriber numbers. But when BFA suffers and there's just not necessarily buggy, but more like just the quality of the product suffered. I don't necessarily want to assign blame to lack of pay, but it isn't inconceivable that there were some shortcomings, perhaps maybe because they cut a few too many QA jobs, or maybe they weren't getting the best out of their employees simply because they were disgruntled to begin with. Like I don't want to make that assertion, but it wouldn't surprise me necessarily.
Yeah, I definitely can see that, but I mean at the same time, BFA was not necessarily like buggy or like the system itself was not well designed. It was more of like
Yeah,
the ideas behind it.
yeah,
So I don't think it's necessarily, in my personal opinion, that it was about people taking shortcuts. There's just like a design flaw by the heads. And I mean, they're obviously getting paid well, right? I would
mm-hmm.
assume so. I mean, if they're not getting paid well, then we're all screwed, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
I would assume they're paying well. But I guess, I mean, they also cut a lot of like, community managers and all that stuff, right?
They did, they
So,
did.
so we might see more, um, a lack of like, of monitoring and bug catching and testing at the
Yeah,
lower end. So if there's more bugs and all that stuff as we go into Shadowlands, then definitely I think this probably had an effect on it.
mm-hmm.
But if they're still keeping up with it, right, and it's just maybe the ideas are messed up a little bit,
Perhaps, yeah,
then I mean then this just hurts their ability to get higher pay, right? Because then if everything's still good, you
yeah,
know, and they can get even worse people, or I mean not worse people, I mean even lower salaried people
Yeah.
and still produce a decent, very good, decent product with
Yeah.
minimal bugs, then I don't know. Like, yeah, I they could somehow come to a resolution where at least Blizzard's still acknowledging that they might be getting a profit, right? But you know, at the same time, the people employed are still having enough to get through everything.
Yeah.
I mean, having that compromise would be great, but I don't know how we're doing because even if they do leave the job, right?
Hmm.
I don't. I mean, they could just replace them. So
They could. Yeah.
I don't know what the solution is into making finding the happy median.
Yeah, like we mentioned, the field. It's very possible that this is a potentially, also a problem of a saturated field in terms of competition for these positions. So naturally, the Blizzard has sort of the bargaining power where they can pay less and less for the same quality that maybe another company would pay more for. So yeah, that's I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe it's probably convenient argument to say that the product that BFA is, has suffered because of this. It is probably a bit convenient. I'd acknowledge that, especially because Legion was just, I mean, pretty widely regarded as a pretty good
But there
expansion.
was, yeah,
Um,
true. But there was a lot of initial bugs in the
there
beginning of
were,
BFA.
there were.
So
I do recall that. Yeah.
I cannot, I would not know whether it's because of that or not.
Yeah.
Maybe I would definitely stake on the fact that it probably is a very, at least some part of it. Whether that percentage is like 1% or like 20%, right? I would
Hmm.
not know, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you start caring a little bit less, I think that might lead to people just missing bugs,
Yeah. Yeah.
not paying
Probably.
as much attention.
So I mean, yeah. Do you ultimately sort of do you think, like, now that all this controversy has come out into the open, like, do you think this will change anything within Blizzard for the better? Like, do you think this could lead
Yeah, I
to?
mean, I don't
Yeah.
know if there's a severe change, but I think a change will happen because I know, as you mentioned, like she mentioned, Blizzard, the spokesman for Blizzard, right?
Mhm.
They mentioned
Mhm.
that they increased salaries by 20%,
Mhm.
and clearly this was a response to right the article and everything. So I'm hoping it'll get better. I don't know how much it'll get better. It just depends
Yeah.
on, you know, I mean, the extreme is us consumers, right? We take a stand, right? But I don't know if
Yeah.
that's ever going to really happen. So
No. No.
maybe publicity of it.
There you go.
I
You
can't
got there.
speak.
Third time's a
Yeah,
charm.
I
Yeah.
can't speak right now.
Yeah.
The publicity of this bad decision might come back to haunt them, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know if any difference will really come.
Yeah. I mean, if you had to sort of, do you think, like, if you had to, let's say, if you had to side with someone, the workers or sort of the company, do you know which way you go? Do you know, like, who you side with in this instance?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. If you had I mean, you are asking me, but I would side with the workers, right, over the company,
Yeah.
just because of I think the profits have taken too much attention out of like the well-being of the employees.
Hmm.
It's one thing if you can have competitive employees, another thing if they can't even live properly
Yeah.
under your, within your city. But so I will side with employees, but I don't know. Like, I'll be honest. I mean, other people might probably feel the same way. Is that would you take a stand for it? Maybe not, but if there's like a petition to sign or something like that, I would sign it.
Sure. Yeah. A little bit of slacktivism. Yeah. Why not?
Right, right.
Yeah. It's kind of more easy because, like, yeah, we do love this product, and like I've been playing it for quite some time now, and I'm sure you have as well. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, I'm not gonna, like, take a moral stand and, like, unsubscribe, because you start doing that, things get murky. Like, in terms of, no matter what game you play, I'm sure there's something you can find
Right.
down the chain
Yeah.
where there's something.
He just says don't touch any games then, because I mean,
Yeah, essentially, I just have to isolate myself in a box, pretty much. Like, same thing with like whatever cell phone you buy. Like, ultimately, you have to give ground somewhere in terms of
yeah.
morality. However, like, I do, I am certainly, I have some faith. I'll say maybe like 25% faith that Blizzard will do the right thing. So I'm definitely hoping so, which isn't insignificant. Like, they definitely, honestly, they could just be like, screw you all, like, we pay what we pay, and like, I wouldn't, like, they could be that forward and like kind of like dickish about it, and I wouldn't necessarily be like, well, I'll unsub. Like, I'll probably still sub. But I think they're better than that, at least. So
You think so?
yeah, yeah, I think so. I hope so. Well, I
I
guess I hope
mean,
so.
I think the people of Blizzard are good. I don't know about. It looks like Activision as a bigger company tends to be more, I guess more willing to look at profit versus well-being.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Blizzard Activision merger. Was it Activision taking Blizzard in, or was it just like they come
Yeah.
together and
That's
then
what I
they have like a
believe.
new
Yeah.
CEO?
Yeah, I believe Activ. I mean, again, I'm just sort of speaking out my ass. I'm pretty sure Activision was they took over Blizzard. Yeah.
Okay,
And that happened what back end of Wrath, early Kata, or maybe during
yeah.
Wrath. I don't know, something like that.
I mean, it'd be good to know how the Activision employees doing, right?
That's
Because that would
true.
change.
That's fair. Yeah.
That would be change everything. Because the Activision employees are doing well and Blizzard isn't. So then, does Blizzard have like their own like mini CEO in charge of Blizzard side of things?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. Like you're definitely right that it could just be more of a Blizzard structural thing rather than an Activision structure thing. Like this could be a fallout from poor planning on Blizzard's part, or just greed from the higher ups in Blizzard's section of the company rather than say Activision. Because yeah, a lot of people usually say like, oh, ever since Activision took over, Blizzard sucks. I mean, that's just nonsense. Like whatever. Blizzard has put out some pretty good expansions under the Activision name.
Yeah, Legion.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. Yeah, it's the most recent example being
I
yeah.
mean, with Kata, with Mop wasn't right. Mop was separate.
What mop? What do you mean mop was separate?
Like, was Mop created under the merger or?
Yeah. If again, I don't
Wait, what did you
remember
say? Wrath of
exactly.
the Lich King?
Yeah, so everything that came after that, only BC wouldn't have been under Activision.
Oh, okay.
Activision.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, every other expansion's alternating, right? That gives like the theory
Yeah.
of like, the two teams, right? But
Yeah, so they merged July 9th, 2008. It said Activision merged with Vivendi Games, which culminating in the inclusion of the Blizzard brand name in the title of the resulting holding company. So yeah, there you go. Pretty much all the expansions other than BC were under Activision. So there's been good ones, there's been bad ones. Um, but that's a separate conversation to begin with. But yeah, their mop I would consider a good one. But yeah, that's besides the point. So yeah, any any the final conclusions you got there
I
with
mean,
this whole controversy?
yeah, it's just in general, it's just a very tricky subject. Whether who to blame for this. I mean, morally, I guess most people agree with the employees, right?
Yeah,
But when you
I
take
think so.
economics into this, definitely becomes a more, I guess, muddy topic to discuss, right? Just because of
Yeah,
who exactly is to blame. Are they at fault for trying to be a business and make a profit? I mean, is the competition to blame? I mean, there's just so many factors to this that
yeah.
it's
There's
not as
likely not a
simple.
clean explanation that explains everything in this
Right.
complicated sort of the complicated nature of this controversy. So yeah, but obviously I would side
Right.
with the workers as well. So yeah, all right. Well, yeah, that has been episode 10 of GamerWatch. We would appreciate it if you guys liked and subscribed. Help build a following here. If you enjoy this content, that is, like and subscribe. If you don't like it, go ahead, downvote us, whatever. That's cool. But yeah, I am Rom,
And I mash.
and thank you for listening, guys.
All right. Take care.
See you.